So after our dyno session, we went out to Willow Springs to test the car on Friday. I was planning on leaving the next day on Saturday.
Yeah, there is. Holy shit.
Car did well. The suspension did great. Unfortunately, our breather system was just not up to the task.
Holy shit. I think that's coming from the valve cover, dude. It's just weird. I mean, nothing like this on the fucking dyno at all.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, we have oil everywhere, twice in a row.
So it was spraying oil all over the engine bay. I was not 100% that it was the breather system at first. I didn't know exactly where the oil was coming from. At first it appeared to be coming from the valve cover seal. So I pulled off the valve cover and checked the seal, and we still had leaks. So I taped off the dipstick to kind of determine if it was coming out of the dipstick or not, and did a couple passes, not 100%, and didn't get oil over the place, so I was pretty sure it was shooting out the dipstick. We also stuck a GoPro on there to determine where the oil was coming from, and you can see it, spraying out of the dipstick there onto the header. So on Saturday, the day that I was supposed to leave, I spent the whole day redoing the breather system. Took the valve covers off, drilled them out, used some Dash 12 O-ring Boss fittings, and ran those to the catch cans. I also added another catch can too, so now we have a catch can on each side and much larger hoses leading to the valve cover, and was hoping that we weren't going to have any problems after that. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to test out the new breather setup at the track. We kind of had to go. So Sunday morning, I took off and drove a long ways, all the way into Oklahoma, I believe, or maybe even Mississippi. Got really far on that first day. Finally passed out and drove myself into Atlanta. Mississippi out there, car in here, Gonzo down there, truck up front. Let's get to Atlanta.
Welcome to Atlanta, hammers and bows, back to the mackin' and the clothes, adolescents packing a knock on the door. Who is it? I would happen to know, the one with the flow. Who did it? It was me, I suppose. JD in the rolls and looters in the cut supreme, skating down old Nat, tucked and lean.
Alright, so we got to Atlanta Motor Speedway. Still didn't know if the breather system was going to be working, but it turns out that that was going to be the least of our worries throughout the weekend. We head out for practice. I get my first lap in and trying to kind of shake down the new setup. It's the first time I'd driven with the new trailing arm at high speed, and the car rotates a lot slower because I don't have as much side bite, so getting used to that is a little weird. I ended up spinning on the last clipping point just because I was throwing the car too hard. With the old setup, with all the side bite we had, you really had to chuck the car into the corner if you wanted to carry any decent angle through the corner, and now I just don't have to do that. So and then we are in line waiting for our second practice lap, and the map sensor decides to fail on us. So the car started idling really weird. We didn't know if it was the map sensor at first. It was idling really, really weird. So we pull it back in, we disconnect the map sensor, and we get no change. So we kind of loosely determined that the map sensor was our problem. We pick up a new map sensor, and it turns out it's the wrong one. It was a 1 bar and not a 3 bar, so that one didn't work. We put the old map sensor back on because we had to basically get out there for qualifying pretty much right away. So we put the old map sensor back on, and the car kind of ran okay if I was, at full throttle or, at a decent amount of throttle. It just wasn't idling very well. In turn, when the map sensor failed, it also fouled out our spark plugs, so we had to replace those as well. So that basically took up the entire practice session that we had on Thursday before qualifying. So we go out to qualifying. This was our second lap on track, and I still was kind of unsure about the setup, so I did kind of an easy initiation, and that put me in a pretty good spot, and we knocked out a 90-point qualifying lap on our first run, which put us, I believe, in second place. On our second qualifying run, I tried to huck it a little bit harder into the corner and put it on a really nice angle coming into the first clip, but unfortunately the car basically slowed itself down too much before the clip, and I couldn't carry the momentum up the hill. There was a possibility that, I could have, but it would have been a really bad line. We would have lost a lot of speed, and we definitely wouldn't have bettered our 90-point score from the previous run. Only reason I really decided to do that is because we were sitting in a good position qualifying wise. I think we were still in second at that point, but a couple of guys ended up sort of upping their scores on their second lap, so we ended up qualifying fifth in the end. So Friday comes around, we have our third practice session or second practice session, I'm not sure, and it was only a 45-minute practice session before we went into top 16. Unfortunately, the car was still running kind of weird at idle, running very lean at idle for some reason. Either the map sensor probably just wasn't reading well in the low end of the RPMs. So the headers were glowing red hot just at idle, and it ended up melting the throttle cable. Basically, right as I get out at the beginning of the line and do my donuts to warm up the tires, I noticed the throttle was just sticking open, so I had to shut the car down. We had to push it back over there. Fortunately, I had a spare one. We replaced the throttle cable. We get back in line, and right as we get to the front of the line to do our donuts to warm up, they cut practice. And we still had 10 minutes on the clock, but apparently they started practice 10 minutes early, so that was it. We had our one practice lap on Thursday, we had our 2 qualifying laps, and that was it. Now we're going straight into top 16 competition. So it was kind of just a send it scenario.
It's been a hell of a weekend, man. 1 lap of practice before qualifying, 0 laps of practice in this session. I don't know, man. I don't know. If we do good, I'm gonna flip my shit. That's all I gotta say. I've had the roughest FD weekend I've ever had, by far. By far. I almost would have preferred to break and just not have to do anything else. Like, it's that bad. Melted throttle cable before this session. Bad map sensor, which fouled our spark plugs. We had to replace those on grid, burning our hands on the headers. Injector crimp went bad. We got our 1 lap of practice. We did our 2 qualifying laps. We've done 3 laps so far on this course, so it's been a tough one.
So our top 16 battle was against Troy Manners, who is out of Pennsylvania, and he drives a 1JZ powered S13. Not sure about how much power it makes, but it's a pretty fast car. I watched his qualifying laps the night before, and they were kind of inconsistent, so I wasn't sure what to do in the chase. Fortunately, I was leading at first, so on my lead lap, I gapped him pretty good going up the hill, and kind of just left him back there. There was no place that he closed in, so I had the advantage going into the follow run. So I hung back a little far, probably further than I should have. Going up the hill, he gained some ground on me. I had to cut the line in the keyhole to gain it back, and finished relatively close. I was going through the last corner, kind of blinded by his smoke, and kind of just feathered the throttle and came through. We ended up winning that battle and moving on to top 8. Our top 8 battle was against Ola Jaeger, who's a really cool guy from Norway, and he drives Chucky, which is Fredrik Osbo's old Supra that he originally brought to the United States and started doing Formula Drift in. Solid car, competition proven, lots of horsepower, 750-ish I think, so kind of had to bring it to this battle. He had the lead because he out-qualified me. We went into the first corner. He was just kind of gapping me all around the course. Felt like the car was kind of not performing at optimum at that point. I felt like I was definitely kind of down on power, and the car was kind of sounding funny at full throttle. So in our lead run, my initiation was kind of funky, and came up the hill and just overcooked it going into outer zone number 2. Dropped 3 tires off the course. started to bring it back on and realized that Ola was way on the inside of me, and if I kept going with that, there was probably going to be a collision, and it would have been pointless at that point just because we had already dropped 3 tires and we basically zeroed out. So for me to just keep going, it just wouldn't have made sense. So I kind of pulled to the side and let him go around, and he ended up winning the event, and really stoked for him. He's a great guy, and hopefully we can be on the podium with him next time. So that's it for the FD Atlanta vlog. I got a whole bunch of other footage that I'm going to be dropping. I just wanted to keep this kind of short so that we didn't have, a 30 or 40 minute vlog here. So the next one you'll be seeing coming up, I got a bunch of footage from off-roading in my buddy's Miata again, and got a lot of footage from Tennessee. Went up there to visit a buddy of mine, and he let me drive his E46 M3 at Tail of the Dragon, so that was really fun. So look for that dropping, and yeah, that's about it, guys. Went and enjoyed some time on the lake after Road Atlanta, and hung with all my Atlanta buddies, and yeah, it was a good event, good times, awesome trip despite all the circumstances we had with the car. We'll see you guys next time.